The chamber of the Galactic Council shimmered like a cathedral of light. Hundreds of floating platforms, each bearing the emissary of a different world, formed a spiraling constellation around the central dais. The air vibrated with the hum of translators and the faint pulse of 1,000 languages colliding. Yet, when Commander Kree of the Versh Empire stepped forward, the room fell into silence. Kree's polished armor caught the reflection of the dome's golden ceiling. His slitted eyes burned with confidence, his voice steady and sharp as a plasma blade. "The planet you call Earth," he declared, "will belong to the Versh Empire within one solar rotation." A murmur rippled through the chamber. Some ambassadors turned away in discomfort, others whispered warnings into their comms. Only one, Ambassador Thelix of the Letheran Conquered, rose to speak. She was tall and insectoid, her crystalline wings faintly glowing as her translator flickered on. "Commander Kree," she began, her tone urgent, "you must reconsider. That world is quarantined for a reason. Earth is a classified death world." Kree tilted his head, the faintest smirk spreading across his chitinous jaw. "A primitive world with no faster-than-light travel, no energy weapons, no unified government. Do you call that dangerous?" "You misunderstand," Thelix replied, her voice trembling slightly. "The quarantine is not for their protection, it is for ours." Laughter echoed through the chamber. It came from the Versh delegation, a chorus of metallic voices filled with scorn. Kree raised a hand for silence, pretending patience. "Ambassador, the Versh have faced down the Kronar war hosts and shattered the Selenian defense grids. Your death world will fall as all others have. It will be a short campaign, nothing more." Several delegates stood abruptly and began exiting the chamber. Others whispered hurriedly, their expressions dark with dread. Thelix could feel the energy shift, fear, not of the Versh, but of what they were about to awaken. 50 Earth years ago, she tried once more, we discovered that planet, we've watched them. They are predators who turned their intellect into survival. Their wars shaped their evolution, their technology, even their empathy. You must not. Enough, Kree's tone was final, almost bored. You mistake brutality for brilliance. They burn chemical fuel to reach orbit. They fight with ballistic metal slugs. They are insects playing with fire. "And yet," said Thelix softly, "fire built their civilization." Kree turned his back on her. His honor guard followed as he walked off the dais, every motion brimming with arrogance. "I will not debate myths. The Versh fleet launches at dawn. When next you see me, it will be as the governor of Earth." He left the chamber to silence so complete, it felt like the galaxy itself was holding its breath. Far below the stars, on a small blue world spinning quietly in the void, General Ethan Cole was watching a storm roll in over the Pacific. He sat alone in his coastal house, a cup of coffee cooling in his hands. The ocean outside was violent tonight, dark waves crashing against the shore, lightning flashing in the distance. He had seen storms like this before on battlefields, in cities burning under alien skis in his nightmares. But this storm was only weather. He thought so anyway. The call came just before midnight. His communicator pulsed blue, displaying the United Nations insignia. "Cole here. General, we need you in Geneva. It's urgent." "Define urgent." "You'll want to see this for yourself, sir. We have visitors." For a moment, Cole said nothing. The sound of the rain on the roof filled the silence. "How big?" he finally asked. 300 ships. Estimated mass suggests an invasion fleet." Cole stood slowly, heart thudding in his chest. Invasion. "They're not responding to hails. Whatever they are, they're moving fast. ETA 37 hours. Cole's jaw tightened. "I'll be there in 6. He cut the line, grabbed his coat, and stepped into the rain. By the time Cole arrived at UN Command Center, Geneva, the world had changed. The main situation room buzzed with activity. Dozens of generals, scientists, and diplomats stood around a massive holographic display of Earth. Red icons blinked along the edge of the solar system, each one a confirmed Versh ship. Cole moved through the chaos, his boots echoing on the polished floor. "Talk to me," he ordered. Dr. Sarah Chen, chief of planetary defense research, looked up from her console. "They entered the system 20 minutes ago. They're broadcasting in the clear, something about resource acquisition and imperial claim." "Any attempt at diplomacy?" "None. They're ignoring every transmission." Cole's gaze fixed on the map, And our response? Every major power is mobilizing. We're working on coordinated defense protocols. But let's be honest, sir. If their tech is what it looks like, we're outmatched. Cole studied her face, sharp, exhausted, but fearless. Outmatched isn't the same as defeated. Sarah almost smiled. You always say that before things explode. Because they usually do. In orbit, the Versh fleet shimmered into existence, sleek obsidian warships stretching across the void. Commander Kree stood at the bridge window of his flagship, watching Earth grow larger by the minute. It looked fragile, almost delicate, wrapped in clouds and oceans. Begin scanning, he ordered. I want every military installation identified. The sensor officer's claws danced across the console. No orbital weapons detected. No energy fields, no plasma batteries. They appear undefended. Kree's mandibles twitched in satisfaction. Deploy landing units. 4 continents. Australia, Amazon, Siberia, Sahara will take their resources before they even realize they're conquered. Yes, Commander. As the fleet began to split into formation, Kree looked down at the blue planet and smiled. Primitive world, perfect victory. Back at the Galactic Council, Ambassador Thelix was trembling. Her bioluminescent wings dimmed with despair. He's done it, she whispered. He's actually gone. Beside her, the reptilian Ambassador Corin of the Draxi Collective shook his head. He doesn't understand what he's facing. Humans aren't weak, they're forged by suffering. I tried to tell him, Thelix said. He only saw their rockets and their crude weapons. He didn't ask the right question. Which is, Corin asked quietly. Not what they've built, she said, but what they've survived. Her gaze drifted toward the stars, where the Versh fleet was already vanishing into hyperspace. May the ancestors have mercy on them, she whispered, because the humans will not. On Earth, the sirens began to sound. In bunkers, air bases, and naval fleets, soldiers prepared. Submarines slipped beneath the waves. Satellites adjusted orbit. Pilots kissed pictures of loved ones and strapped in. General Cole stood before the world's leaders, his voice carrying across every secure channel. Ladies and gentlemen, we are not fighting for borders or politics anymore. We are fighting for Earth, for every living thing that calls it home. He paused, looking at the silent faces around the table. We've spent centuries fighting each other. It's time we fight together. A hush settled. Then one by one, nations that had once been enemies began to nod. China, the United States, Russia, India, the European Union, Africa's united coalition. For the first time in human history, there was no them, only us. And above them, in the cold emptiness of space, 300 alien ships prepared to meet the most dangerous species in the galaxy. As the Versh fleet entered orbit, the first alien landing craft began its descent through Earth's atmosphere, its hull glowing red with friction. In the Australian outback, a team of miners looked up at the blazing streak in the sky. One of them pointed. That's not a meteor. The ground began to shake. And somewhere, deep in the heart of Geneva Command, General Cole whispered the words that would echo through history. Let them come. The first Versh landing craft tore through Earth's atmosphere like falling suns. Each ship glowed red from the heat of re-entry, leaving trails of fire behind them as they descended over 4 continents. To the Versh, it was the beginning of another glorious conquest. To Earth, it was the start of a nightmare. Australia outback region. The sky over the red desert shimmered. Heat waves danced on the horizon as the Versh troop carrier slammed into the ground, kicking up a storm of dust and shattered rock. Commander Relac, leader of the ground detachment, barked orders through the comms. Deploy in squads of 20, secure the landing zone, begin mineral scans. His soldiers, tall, armored, and confident, moved quickly. They were used to dominating alien worlds, but this was not like any they'd known. The sun hit harder here. The temperature climbed to 45 degrees C, and their armor cooling systems struggled to compensate. Their sensors screamed warnings as local life forms scurried around the rocks. Commander, a trooper reported, crouching beside a strange creature. Life readings everywhere, small, fast-moving. Relac looked down. A hairy creature with 8 legs, barely the size of a hand, stared up at them. The trooper reached out to move it. The spider struck faster than light. Its fangs pierced through the trooper's glove. The soldier screamed and fell. Within minutes, his veins darkened beneath the armor. His heart stopped. "Medic," Relax shouted. The medic knelt beside the body, scanned the wound, and frowned. "Unknown toxin, spreading too fast. I can't neutralize it." Relax turned slowly, looking at the tiny corpse of the spider. What kind of world is this? By the end of the hour, 3 more Versh had fallen. One bitten by a snake they hadn't seen, another burned by a plant's secretion, and a third collapsed from heat exhaustion. "Commander," an officer said quietly, "the planet is hostile." "Then it will learn to kneel," Relax growled, but even he sounded unsure. Above them, satellites recorded every moment, streaming live feeds back to UN Command. Geneva Command Center. General Ethan Cole stood surrounded by flickering holographic projections of the invasion sites. His hands were clasped behind his back, his jaw tight. "They're splitting into 4 sectors," said Dr. Sarah Chen. "Australia, Amazon, Siberia, Sahara, resource-based distribution pattern." "So they're not here to talk," Cole replied. "No, sir, they're here to take." Cole watched the data feeds, energy signatures, troop deployments, weapon scans. The Versh technology was impressive: plasma-based rifles, anti-gravity transports, personal shields. But there was one thing missing: adaptability. Everything was perfect but rigid, predictable. "We can use that," Cole muttered. "Use what?" "Predictability. Let them think we're broken and primitive. Then we hit them where it hurts." He turned toward the comm officer. "Patch me through to all military leaders, Priority Alpha." Global broadcast, emergency defense coordination. The world's most powerful militaries appeared as holographic projections. U.S. generals beside Russian marshals, Chinese admirals beside Indian commanders, rival flags now blurred into a single shared channel. "This is General Cole," his voice echoed. "The aliens think we're weak. They think we'll fight separately. We won't. Effective immediately, Earth's forces operate as one. Our first objective: contain and observe. Learn everything we can about their tech, every weapon, every movement. We fight smart. Second, no civilian casualties. We protect our own. Third, if they want a war," Cole's eyes hardened, "we'll give them hell." The Amazon rainforest. Thousands of kilometers away, the second Versh detachment landed amid thick jungle. Humidity blanketed everything. The air was dense, sticky, alive with the constant buzz of insects. Captain Voro emerged from his dropship, wiping condensation from his visor. "Deploy sensors, scan for energy resources and biomass." Within minutes, the equipment started to fail. Moisture infiltrated circuits, clogging connections. Their armor's cooling systems began to overheat. "Sir, visibility is low, movement everywhere. The plants are breathing." A vine brushed a soldier's arm. He yelped, pulling away. Blisters began forming instantly. The vine secreted acid. "Medic." Unknown chemical burns, armors melting. They retreated toward their landing site, weapons drawn. That was when the insects found them. Swarms descended, mosquitoes the size of thumbnails, biting through weak armor seams. Within hours, soldiers were feverish, hallucinating. The medics couldn't identify the pathogens. "How can primitives survive this?" one soldier gasped. "Because they evolved here," Voro muttered. "We didn't." High above the jungle canopy, a Brazilian reconnaissance drone recorded everything. The feed was sent directly to Geneva. Sarah watched in disbelief. "They're dying from exposure, from the planet itself." Cole leaned forward. "Then we let the planet fight with us." Siberia. The Versh considered themselves masters of adaptation. They'd conquered lava worlds and frozen moons, yet nothing prepared them for Siberia. The air temperature was degrees C. The wind never stopped howling. Commander Rithar stood outside his landing craft, his armor crusted with ice. "We'll establish a base here," he said through chattering mandibles. "Begin excavation." Within hours, their machinery began to fail. Power cells drained, metal cracked in the cold. "Sir," said a technician, "our thermal units can't compensate. We're losing efficiency." "Then work faster," Rithar snapped. But even as he spoke, shapes moved in the snow. Shadows, dozens of them. Through his visor, he saw eyes, glinting yellow in the dark. Wolves. They surrounded the camp silently, moving like ghosts. The Versh opened fire, energy bolts lighting up the storm. The wolves scattered only to circle again. "Sir, we're being hunted." Rithar's breath fogged inside his helmet. "By what?" "By everything. Sahara Desert." The fourth invasion zone was all heat and silence. The sand burned beneath alien boots, armor joints filled with dust. Major Krex ordered his troops to begin constructing resource extractors, unaware that hundreds of kilometers away, human satellites were watching. By day's end, a sandstorm hit. Visibility dropped to zero. Versh soldiers huddled inside shelters, blinded. That's when the first counterattack came. From the darkness, missiles streaked upward. Drones appeared from nowhere. Human forces, African coalition troops, were moving under the cover of the storm. Explosions lit the sky. Krex's comms flared. "We're under attack, unknown numbers, they strike, then vanish." "How many?" "Hundreds, no dozens, no visual, they're ghosts." The storm howled around them as soldiers disappeared into the sand. Back in Geneva, Cole watched as feeds from 4 continents flickered across the hollow display. In Australia, alien troops dying to venom and heat. In the Amazon, their armor corroding in the rain. In Siberia, wolves stalking them through blizzards. In the Sahara, ambushed by humans using the planet itself as a weapon. "They came to conquer," Cole said quietly, "but they didn't realize they invaded a planet built on survival." Sarah looked at him. "Do we attack now?" "Not yet, let them bleed first, then we strike." She nodded grimly, "And when we do, we make sure they remember it for the next 1,000 years." Aboard the Versh flagship, Commander Kree stood before the central holomap of Earth, mandibles twitching in irritation. "Status report," he demanded. His officers hesitated. One finally spoke. "We have complications, sir. Ground casualties are rising. Environmental conditions are extreme. Local fauna are lethal." "You mean insects and animals?" Kree sneered. "Yes, Commander, and there's more. Human resistance is escalating. They're coordinating global counterattacks." Kree's tone turned cold. "Impossible. They're divided by nations, languages, and politics." "Not anymore, sir. They've united." Kree stared at the map, 4 red zones flashing with data. "So they think unity will save them." He leaned closer, eyes narrowing. "Then we will remind them what happens to those who defy the Versh Empire." He turned toward the communications pit. "Prepare for orbital bombardment. Let their primitive world feel the Empire's wrath." Thelix's warning echoed faintly in his mind. "The quarantine exists to protect us from them." He dismissed it with a flick of his claw. "Begin the assault," he ordered. "Geneva Command, nightfall." The room went dark, sirens blared. Sarah spun around, her eyes wide. "They're charging their main weapons." Cole grabbed the nearest mic. "All stations brace for orbital strike. Power down non-essential systems. Harden shields." "Shields," Sarah repeated, disbelieving. Cole gave a grim smile. "We've been working on energy deflection grids since the first contact with meteor weapons. Let's see if they work against aliens." A pulse from orbit lit up the sky. From space, the Versh flagship unleashed its fury, columns of plasma fire tearing through the atmosphere toward Earth's surface. In Geneva, the ground shook, the lights flickered, but when the smoke cleared, the city still stood. The shield projectors hummed, overloading but holding. Cole exhaled slowly. That was round 1. He turned to Sarah. "Now it's our turn." Across the sky, hundreds of human fighter jets rose from airbases across the world. The world's nations had finally united under one banner. General Cole gave the order that would echo in human history. "Launch counteroffensive Operation Dawnstrike. Let's show them what a death world really is." The jets screamed into the night sky toward the glowing alien fleet. The night sky over Earth was alive with fire. Hundreds of streaks of light, some blue, some white, some blazing orange, crossed the heavens as human fighter jets and alien interceptors clashed above the clouds. It was chaos wrapped in beauty, a ballet of destruction seen from every corner of the planet. From the command deck in Geneva, General Ethan Cole stood with his arms folded, watching the incoming telemetry feed from the front lines. His voice was steady, but every word carried the tension of a man who knew humanity's survival hung by threads thinner than steel. "Report," he said. Dr. Sarah Chen didn't look up from her console. "Operation Dawnstrike has engaged all 4 fronts. We've confirmed Earth-orbit intercepts in progress. The aliens are adapting faster than expected, but so are we." "Losses?" "Heavy," she admitted. "But so are theirs. Our atmospheric density is throwing off their flight dynamics. They're not used to real air drag." Cole nodded slowly. "Then we keep them flying through hell." Australia, the Red Ambush. The Versh occupation force had turned the outback into a temporary fortress. Towering harvesters tearing into the soil, drones scanning for minerals, energy pylons stabbing into the red ground. They didn't see the ambush coming. From the distance, the rumble of engines echoed. Dozens of Australian armored vehicles raced across the desert, kicking up massive clouds of dust. Overhead, F-18s streaked low, their payloads armed. Captain Liam Ward, commander of the assault group, spoke into his radio. "On my mark, targets locked." The Versh sensors screamed warnings too late. Human artillery fired from 20 kilometers out, sending seismic vibrations through the alien camp. Explosions ripped through extractor towers. Energy pylons cracked and fell. The desert glowed with fire. Ward grinned beneath his helmet. "Welcome to the outback, mate." The Versh tried to regroup, firing plasma bolts into the smoke, but the heat distorted their targeting systems. And when they tried to advance, they stepped onto something they didn't recognize, buried landmines. The ground erupted beneath them. "They're using explosives," a Versh officer shouted. "Primitive," another hissed. "Unpredictable." By the time the dust cleared, the human forces had already vanished, gone without a trace, leaving only destruction behind. The Versh had expected resistance. They hadn't expected the predators of Earth to fight like ghosts. Amazon, the Green War. The dense jungle swallowed sound. Every breath felt heavy, every step like walking through wet fire. Captain Voro's detachment was collapsing. Soldiers were sick, their equipment rusted and clogged with mud. The humidity had corroded their weapon coils. Then came the first attack. It began with whispers in the dark, then gunfire. Muzzle flashes flared like lightning. Brazilian commandos, trained for jungle warfare, struck with precision. They attacked in small units, melting into the foliage before the Versh could counter. One Versh shouted, "They're everywhere." "They're nowhere," another whispered back. "This jungle itself is alive." Grenades rained from the treetops. Traps snapped shut on armored limbs. A plasma cannon exploded after being hit with improvised EMP rounds built from scavenged drone parts. The Versh retreated, firing wildly into the shadows. The jungle answered back with silence until an entire section of canopy erupted, revealing helicopters descending through the storm. Human special forces rappelled down, guns blazing. Within an hour, half the Versh unit was gone. The survivors fled back toward their dropships. Captain Voro shouted over the comms, requesting reinforcements. The only reply came through static. "No reinforcements available. Other divisions compromised." He looked around at the jungle that devoured his army and whispered, "We invaded a planet that doesn't want us here." Siberia, white silence. Commander Rithar's soldiers had stopped feeling their hands. Their armor heaters had failed days ago. The cold was relentless. They'd lost communication with orbit. Their ships were buried under snowdrifts. And then the howling began again. Wolves circled the camp, invisible in the storm. Rithar aimed his plasma rifle toward the sound and fired. Blue light cut through the snow, but nothing was there. The silence returned, and that's when the human tanks appeared. Camouflaged in white, they came rolling over the horizon, modern Russian T-14s, engines muffled by snow. Artillery shells exploded across the frozen ground. "Enemy armor incoming," shouted a Versh gunner. "Return fire," Rithar bellowed. But their weapons were sluggish. Circuits froze mid-discharge. A single missile streaked across the sky, hitting a Versh walker and turning it into molten scrap. Then came the infantry, soldiers in snow suits, armed with rocket launchers and silenced rifles. They moved in pairs, using the blizzard as cover. The Versh were trapped, cut off, frozen. Rithar's second-in-command turned to him, eyes wide. "Sir, this isn't a war, it's extermination." Rithar didn't respond. He just stared into the white void, realizing what every commander on Earth was beginning to learn. The humans had home field advantage on the most lethal world in the galaxy. Sahara, sand, and fire. Major Krex's unit regrouped in the ruins of their base, armor sandblasted and cracked. Their water reserves were nearly gone. A soldier stumbled to his knees. "Sir, my suit's cooling system failed." Krex ignored him. "We hold this position, reinforcements will come." They never did. At dusk, shadows moved on the horizon. Dozens, then hundreds, humans, African coalition troops wearing heat-resistant suits and goggles. Krex barked orders, "Form firing line." Energy bolts lanced across the dunes, vaporizing sand into glass. But the humans didn't stop. They moved with precision, flanking, weaving through the chaos. Then the storm hit, another wall of dust and lightning. Visibility dropped to nothing. Through the static, Krex heard his officers screaming. Something was cutting through their formation, armored vehicles hidden in the storm, guided by radar and thermal imaging. A shell exploded near him, throwing him to the ground. His visor cracked, sand pouring in. His last sight before the blackout was a human soldier walking through the storm, flames reflecting off his armor, an apparition of war. Back in orbit, Versh flagship. Commander Kree slammed his clawed hand against the console. "Reports, I want reports." The bridge was chaos. Officers shouted over one another. Holograms flickered with casualty updates. "Commander," said the tactical officer, voice trembling. "All 4 divisions report catastrophic losses. They're being overrun." "By who?" Kree snarled. "Primitive humans." "Not primitives," the officer said softly. "Predators." Kree glared at him. "We have orbital superiority. We could scorch their cities to ash." "Yes, sir, but—" the officer hesitated. "Their planet is interfering with our targeting. Magnetic storms, radiation bursts, atmospheric instability. Our targeting systems are unreliable." Kree's claws tightened. "Their animals burn the animals." "Commander." A tremor shook the ship. An explosion rippled through one of the fleet's outer vessels. "What was that?" "An atmospheric strike. Human aircraft, no missiles modified from their nuclear arsenal." Kree turned toward the viewport. Below him, Earth glowed blue and gold, beautiful even in its fury. He felt for the first time something he couldn't name, not anger, not pride, dread. Geneva Command Center. The entire war room shook as radar screens filled with enemy signals. Human pilots reported heavy losses, but morale was high. "Sir," Sarah said, "we've confirmed orbital casualties. Their ships can't maintain stable firing solutions. They're fighting blind." Cole smiled faintly. "Good, let's keep them guessing." He opened the global channel. "To all units, this is Cole. You are fighting for every life on this planet. You're fighting for your families, your cities, your oceans, your forests. Show them what it means to challenge Earth." Cheers erupted across the channels. Even in chaos, humanity was united. Orbit Versh observation log. In the Galactic Council's distant observation station, Ambassador Thelix watched the live feed from her probes. On her holoscreen, human fighter jets dove toward alien cruisers, dodging plasma bolts and missile fire. One jet took a direct hit, spiraled down, then steadied itself, continuing the fight. "They're pilots," whispered the reptilian Ambassador Corrin beside her. "How are they still conscious under that acceleration?" "They evolved in 1.3 standard gravity," Thelix replied. "What would kill us merely tests them." Another feed showed humans cracking Versh communications. In less than a week, their linguists had translated nearly 60% of the alien code. "Impossible," Corrin said. "The Versh encryption is triple-layered quantum." "They're not trying to outsmart machines," Thelix interrupted. "They're outsmarting minds. That's what humans do." She stared at the feeds, wings trembling. "Kree doesn't understand. They don't fight to win. They fight to survive." Earth, the turning point. Over the Pacific, a Versh warship descended through the clouds, burning plasma trails across the ocean. Human submarines surfaced in unison, launching ballistic missiles skyward. The ship's shields flared, blocking the first wave, but the second carried electromagnetic warheads. The blast shorted the entire power grid of the cruiser. It fell into the ocean in a column of fire. Around the world, people watched the live broadcast. Humanity had downed its first alien ship. General Cole leaned forward, staring at the flames on the monitor. "That's it," he said softly. "They bleed." Sarah looked up, and if they bleed, they can lose. In orbit, Commander Kree watched the burning wreckage fall into the Pacific. His face hardened. "They think this victory matters," he said coldly. "Then let them see true power." He turned toward his tactical officer. "Prepare the fleet. We're taking off the gloves. Begin full planetary bombardment." The lights of 300 Versh warships turned blood red, their weapons charging as the skis over Earth began to glow. The world burned and learned. The Versh bombardment began at dawn. From orbit, streaks of plasma fire descended through the atmosphere like glowing spears of divine wrath. Cities shook, oceans boiled. Entire mountain ranges lit up like sunrise. But Earth did not fall, it adapted. Geneva Command Center. The entire command bunker rattled as another blast struck somewhere over the Atlantic. Dust rained from the ceiling, consoles flickered, alarms wailed. General Ethan Cole stood in the middle of the chaos, his uniform streaked with soot. His voice cut through the noise. "Status." Dr. Sarah Chen's fingers flew over the keyboard. "They've hit New York, Delhi, and Tokyo, direct hits, but the shields held for most zones. Casualties are high, but survivable." Cole exhaled slowly, forcing his voice steady. "And counterfire." "Ongoing, the railgun prototypes are charging." He turned toward the global projection. The holographic Earth glowed red in too many places. "We need those guns online now." Sarah nodded grimly. "They're ready for testing. We'll use the orbital debris as a target." Cole didn't blink. "No, use them." She froze. "You mean fire on their fleet?" "They just declared extermination," Cole said quietly. "Let's respond in kind." Rocky Mountains, Deep Earth Facility 7. Buried 2 miles beneath solid granite, humanity's most secret project came online. Dr. Sarah Chen stood before a massive, reinforced window, staring at the weapon her team had built in 3 frantic weeks. A metallic spine that stretched half a kilometer, coiled with electromagnetic rings. It hummed like thunder waiting to be unleashed. The orbital railgun, codenamed Project Prometheus. Around her, engineers and soldiers worked side by side, exhausted, sleepless, and united. Nations that once distrusted each other now shared circuits and coffee. Chen rubbed her eyes, muttering, 3 weeks ago, we were arguing over patents. Now we're reverse engineering alien weapons with duct tape and caffeine." Her assistant, LT Myra Zhao, smirked through the chaos. "Human innovation powered by desperation." Chen smiled faintly, "The best kind." "Dr. Chen," said a technician from the control booth, "the coil capacitors are charged. We can fire in 60 seconds. Sarah took a deep breath. "Then let's make history." The room darkened as power diverted to the firing array. Monitors displayed the targeting feed, one of the Versh cruisers in low orbit. "Magnetic coils at full alignment," Zhao reported. "Confirm trajectory," Chen ordered. "Locked on target." "Fire." A roar filled the chamber. The projectile, a tungsten rod the size of a telephone pole, shot upward at near-relativistic speed. The ground trembled as shockwaves echoed through the tunnels. In orbit, the Versh cruiser detected the projectile too late. It struck mid-hull. The ship folded inward like paper, the kinetic force punching through its shield as if it didn't exist. The explosion lit up half the sky. Back in the control room, the monitors flared white, then static. "Confirm kill," Chen whispered. Zhao stared at the readings. "Confirmed, target destroyed, single shot." Silence filled the room. Then the control team erupted into cheers. Sarah leaned against the console, tears glinting in her eyes. "We did it. We actually did it." Versh flagship orbit above Earth. Commander Kree staggered as alarms wailed across the bridge. "Report." Direct impact on cruiser Varney's, total destruction. Shields failed instantly. "Failed," Kree barked. "That's impossible." Their weapon wasn't energy-based. It was kinetic, a solid projectile moving at extreme velocity. Kree froze, his mind tried to process it. Primitive ballistics. Yes, Commander, but accelerated by magnetic fields beyond anything in our database. Kree slammed his fist into the railing. They're animals using sticks and stones. Sir, that stick just destroyed a cruiser. Kree turned toward the viewport. Below him, Earth glowed blue and white, beautiful and defiant. He whispered to himself, so that's how they fight. Moscow United Earth Defense Coalition. The great war rooms of humanity had become one. Russian generals stood beside American admirals. Chinese scientists shared equations with European physicists. Soldiers and civilians worked shoulder to shoulder, their differences drowned in the rhythm of survival. General Cole's hologram appeared above the central table. Ladies and gentlemen, our enemy bleeds. They're not invincible. Project Prometheus confirmed the weakness in their shields. How many railguns can we build? Asked the Russian defense minister. 5 more within the month, answered Chen, patched in from Colorado. We're coordinating with every space agency. If it flies or orbits, we're arming it. And nuclear readiness? Cole asked. All major powers are aligned, said the Indian representative. For once. Cole looked around the room. Then we moved to Phase 2, full counteroffensive. Brazil, the jungle's revenge. Deep in the Amazon, human and alien blood mingled in the mud. Brazilian special forces moved through the foliage like shadows. They carried new weapons, rifles modified with captured Versh power cells. LT, Myra Zhao's field unit was there, testing the prototypes. You sure this thing won't melt my arm? One soldier joked, holding a glowing rifle. Only if you shoot backward, Zhao said, smirking. They moved in silence until they reached a clearing. There, a Versh supply depot stood half hidden under camouflage nets. Zhao raised a fist. On my mark, EMP grenades first. The grenades exploded, releasing pulses that fried every drone in sight. Within seconds, the unit opened fire. The hybrid weapons hissed blue streaks of plasma, cutting through alien armor like butter. The Versh fell quickly, their comms jamming under human interference. Zhao led the charge into the depot. Secure the crates, download their data, then burn everything. Within minutes, they were gone again, like ghosts. From orbit, the Versh would only see a smoking ruin. Galactic Council Observation Station. Ambassador Thelix watched with trembling hands as her hollow screens displayed the latest combat feeds. They've done it, she whispered. They've reversed-engineered plasma weapons in under a month. Ambassador Corin exhaled, his scales rippling in awe. They're evolving during battle. War accelerates them, Thelix said. They adapt like a virus. They watched footage of human engineers in makeshift labs using alien debris to build new technologies. Energy shields, plasma rifles, improved rail systems. What species does this in weeks? Corin murmured. A Deathworld species, Thelix replied. And now the galaxy will see why they were quarantined. Earth orbit, the counterstrike. Project Prometheus had inspired the world. In the following days, humanity launched a global campaign of innovation. Every research facility became a weapons lab. Every factory became a forge. Every mind became part of one machine, Earth's defiance. New orbital platforms went online, repurposed satellites with makeshift plasma cannons. Submarines surfaced to fire ballistic missiles into orbit. Fighter pilots took their craft beyond the stratosphere. The first wave of railgun fire struck the Versh fleet without warning. 3 ships vanished instantly, 4 more crippled. The humans had found the crack in their enemy's armor, and they exploited it without mercy. Commander Kree's bridge erupted in chaos. Evasive maneuvers, he roared. Deploy countermeasures. Their projectiles are too fast, sir. Then outthink them. But there was no outthinking humanity anymore. Geneva Command Center. The war room glowed red with alerts, but this time they were alien losses. Cole watched as the holographic display updated in real time. They're retreating to high orbit, Sarah said. Their lower fleet is in full collapse. Cole didn't smile, his eyes stayed cold. We're not finished, not yet. Sarah looked at him. You're starting to sound like them. He turned to her. No, they destroy out of pride, we fight to live. He placed a hand on her shoulder. And that's why we'll win. Versh flagship. Kree stood alone on the observation deck, staring down at the blue planet. For the first time, he understood the Council's warnings. The humans weren't merely fighting, they were learning. Every defeat turned into progress, every death became a lesson. His communications officer interrupted his thoughts. "Commander, Earth forces are broadcasting a signal on open frequency." "A surrender plea?" Kree asked dryly. "No, sir, a message." "Play it." A human voice filled the bridge, calm, steady, unyielding. "This is General Ethan Cole of Earth Defense. You came here believing we were prey. You were wrong. This world made us what we are, resilient, united, unbreakable. Leave now, or you will not leave at all." Silence. Kree's mandibles clenched. His officers stared at him, waiting for orders. He finally spoke, voice low and bitter. "They think they can threaten the Versh Empire." He turned sharply. "Prepare the next assault wave. We'll drown this planet in fire." But deep inside, for the first time, Commander Kree was afraid. At that same moment, deep within the mountains, Sarah Chen received new readings from her satellites. She froze, staring at the screen. "General," she whispered, "they're charging something massive, bigger than anything we've seen." Cole leaned over her shoulder. The display showed the Versh flagship glowing, its reactors building to critical output. "What is that?" Sarah's voice shook. "A planetary annihilation weapon." Cole's jaw tightened. "Then it's time humanity shows them our final card." Outside, streaks of light rose from Earth's surface. The launch of the Star Reach platform, humanity's first true space warship. The stars above Earth burned brighter than ever that night, not from beauty, but from fire. Hundreds of alien ships glowed in the darkness, forming a crimson net around the blue planet. Their plasma cores pulsed, charging for the strike that would end humanity. Below, cities lay in eerie silence. People prayed, soldiers braced, engineers watched screens that decided the fate of their species. And then, deep under the Rocky Mountains, General Ethan Cole gave the command that would define Earth's history. "Activate Star Reach." The birth of Star Reach. At first, there was only silence. Then the mountains shook as a subterranean hangar door split open, revealing a shape the size of a skyscraper. It rose slowly, a warship cobbled together from every nation's contribution. Its frame was human, but its heart was alien. Salvaged Versh reactors powered its colossal engines. Human railgun arrays lined its flanks like spears. And at its core, the Helios cannon, a hybrid fusion plasma weapon designed by Dr. Sarah Chen herself. The ship's hull gleamed with painted words, "Star Reach, United Earth Command." Inside, technicians scrambled across catwalks, sealing fuel lines and charging capacitors. Sarah stood in the command bay, headset in place, voice shaking with adrenaline. "Reactor output at 97%. Magnetic containment stable. She's holding General." Cole's hologram flickered on beside her. "Then light her up, Doctor." Sarah turned to her team. "Launch." Engines roared. Ground cracked. The Star Reach tore through the clouds, shedding rock and smoke as it ascended. For the first time in history, Earth sent a warship built for the stars. Versh flagship orbit. Commander Kree watched as his sensors lit up. "Commander," shouted the tactical officer. "Unidentified object launching from the surface. Energy readings are extreme." "Show me." The image expanded on the main holo display, a single ship rising through the atmosphere, surrounded by lightning and debris. Its energy output was absurd for its size, nearly matching a Versh dreadnought. "Humans don't have this technology," Kree muttered. "They can't." "It's hybridized, sir, human design with Versh components." Kree's voice dropped to a low growl. "They've stolen our technology." The officer corrected softly. "No, sir, they've improved it." Kree's mandibles twitched. "All ships prepare to engage that vessel. I want it destroyed before it reaches orbit." The first human warship. The Star Reach broke through the stratosphere, its hull shimmering from the friction. Inside, alarms blared and consoles shook. "Shields holding," Sarah shouted. "Plasma containment stable." "We're through the atmosphere," cried Lieutenant Zhao from navigation. The crew cheered, but the celebration was short-lived. Incoming contacts, multiple. The tactical display bloomed red with enemy signals. Dozens of Versh interceptors descended, firing plasma bolts. The first volley slammed into the ship's shields, lighting the hull like a sunrise. Sarah gripped the console. Return fire, coil turrets 1 through 4. The ship's cannon spat tungsten rounds at hypersonic speed. Alien fighters disintegrated on impact, each shot tearing through space like a thunderclap. Good hits, Zhao shouted. Sarah didn't smile. Her eyes flicked to the upper radar. They're sending cruisers. Geneva Command Center. General Cole stood among his officers as live feeds from Star Reach streamed across the main hollow table. Sparks flew in the background. Smoke filled the corridors. The ship was already taking damage. They won't survive that kind of crossfire for long, said an admiral. Cole's expression hardened. They don't have to survive, they just have to win. He turned to communications. Patch me to Star Reach. The channel opened with static and shouting. Then Sarah's voice came through, raw but defiant. Cole, we've reached orbit. Engaging the fleet. They're everywhere. Listen to me, Cole said calmly. They think you're one ship against hundreds. They don't realize you're the spear that's about to break their entire formation. We're reading heavy energy buildup from their flagship, Sarah warned. Something massive. Cole took a slow breath, then aimed for it. The battle above Earth. The Versh fleet opened fire. Hundreds of plasma lances pierced the void, converging on one target. The Star Reach twisted and rolled, its pilot-pulling maneuvers no simulator had ever tested. Alarms screamed. Shields dropped to 60%, then 40%. Inside the chaos, Sarah barked orders. Helios cannon charging, target enemy flagship. Weapon capacitors overloaded, an engineer yelled. Bleed the surge into the rail coils, Sarah shouted back. Now. The entire ship glowed white-hot as the reactor reached critical. Below on Earth, the sky lit up, a streak of fire brighter than the sun for one brief instant. The Helios cannon fired. A beam of golden plasma ripped through space, striking the Versh flagship dead center. Versh flagship impact. The blast tore through armor and shields like they were paper. The ship's hull rippled, glowing from the inside out. Entire decks vaporized. Thousands of Versh soldiers were erased in milliseconds. The bridge filled with fire and alarms. Commander Kree was thrown to the floor. Shields collapsing, reactor breach imminent, shouted his officer. Kree crawled to his console, half his armor melted. Divert power, maintain formation. Formation is gone, sir. Half the fleet is retreating. Kree stared at the hologram of Earth, burning with fury. They think they've won. They haven't seen what the Versh Empire truly is. He pressed his clawed hand to the command panel. Activate the Nova Core. Geneva Command. Sarah's voice cut through the static. We hit their flagship, direct hit. She's breaking apart. Cheers filled the room. Cole didn't join them. He watched the feed. The Versh flagship wasn't falling. It was glowing. Wait, he said. That's not an explosion, that's a charge. Sarah's voice came back, sharp and afraid. Cole, I'm reading energy output at planetary scale. They're overloading their main reactor. It's going to detonate. Cole froze. They'll destroy themselves just to take us with them. We're too close, Sarah shouted. If it blows, it'll take half the fleet and Earth. Cole slammed his fist on the console. Sarah, listen to me. You have one shot. Aim the Helios cannon straight into their reactor core. You detonate them before they detonate us. There was silence, then her voice soft but steady. Acknowledged. Aboard Star Reach. The hull creaked. Warning lights filled the bridge. Sarah gripped the railing, staring at the massive glowing Versh flagship ahead. All power to weapons. Lieutenant Zhao's voice broke. That'll fry our core. Do it anyway. Zhao hesitated, then nodded. All power rerouted. The reactor flared bright white. Every circuit screamed in protest. Target locked. Fire. The Helios cannon fired again, a beam so bright it cast shadows across continents. It struck the Versh flagship's core. Orbit, the end of the fleet. The explosion was silent but vast. A flower of light bloomed across the sky, petals of fire expanding outward. Shockwaves rippled through space, tearing apart nearby ships. Versh cruisers broke like glass, their hulls vaporizing in the blast. On Earth, people looked up and saw the sky turn gold. Children pointed, soldiers cried. For a moment, every human on the planet stood still, watching the death of an empire. Aboard Star Reach. The ship was spinning out of control, systems offline. Smoke filled the bridge. Sarah was slumped against the console, blood running down her temple. "Zhao," she coughed. "Alive," the lieutenant groaned. "But the core's fried, we've got nothing left." "Cole," Sarah whispered into the comm. "It's done, the flagship is gone." Static, then his voice came, quiet but proud. "You did it, Sarah, you saved us." She smiled faintly, eyes fluttering. "Let's hope they don't come back." Versh remnants. Far from Earth's orbit, fragments of the once mighty fleet limped away, engines sputtering, crews terrified. A young Versh officer stared at the burning planet shrinking in the distance. "Commander Kree." No reply, the flagship was gone. "What do we tell the Empire?" the officer whispered. His superior looked at him, eyes hollow. "Tell them the truth." "That we lost." "No," he said softly. "Tell them what Earth is." Geneva Command, 1 day later. The war room was quiet for the first time in weeks. The world's leaders watched footage of the remaining Versh ships retreating into hyperspace. Cole stood beside Sarah's empty chair. She was alive, recovering, but unconscious. An aide approached him. "Sir, message from the Galactic Council. They're requesting communication. They want to discuss Earth's membership." Cole looked at the hollow screen where the stars still burned. "Now they want to talk." As the transmission from the Galactic Council began to play, a faint signal appeared on the lower radar, a transmission from deep space. Unidentified, repeating. Sarah's automated systems had captured the message hours before the explosion. Cole leaned closer. The translation flickered across the screen. "This is the Versh Empire. Reinforcements inbound. Estimated arrival 3 months." Cole's face hardened. "So it's not over." He turned to the world leaders. "Then we use those 3 months. We rebuild, rearm, and make sure when they come back." He looked out the window, at the shining dawn rising over Earth. They find a death world waiting. The fires of war faded, but Earth was forever changed. Cities still smoked, the oceans still shimmered with debris, but humanity, battered, bruised, unbroken, stood on the edge of something it had never dreamed possible. For the first time in history, Earth was united. 3 weeks after the battle, the world that had once been divided by borders and flags now shared a single goal: survival. In Geneva, the United Earth Command convened inside a rebuilt conference hall, its glass walls overlooking the quiet lake. Generals, scientists, and leaders from every continent sat around a circular table. At the head stood General Ethan Cole, no longer representing any one nation but the entire species. His uniform was worn, his eyes hollow from sleepless nights, but his voice carried the strength of 10 billion people. "The Versh fleet is gone," he began, "but their message is, reinforcements are coming." The room fell silent. The air itself seemed to hold its breath. Dr. Sarah Chen, bandaged and pale but alive, stood beside him. "We estimate their ships will arrive in approximately 90 Earth days," she said. "That's not a lot of time, but it's enough." Cole nodded. "Enough to prepare, enough to build." He turned toward the holographic display of Earth, a planet scarred but defiant. "The Versh came to take our home. Instead, they gave us something we never had before: unity. Reconstruction and revolution. The months that followed were the fastest in recorded human progress. Factories that once built cars now produced plasma rifles. Shipyards designed for cargo vessels churned out starship frames. Nations that once hid technology behind secrecy now shared it freely. In Tokyo, engineers worked alongside Brazilian machinists to rebuild Star Reach from surviving fragments. In Berlin, scientists refined the Helios cannon into a smaller, more efficient weapon. In Nairobi, genetic researchers developed suits to withstand alien environments. And in Colorado, under the shadow of the mountains, Sarah Chen led a new project, Project Dawnforge. She stood before a massive hangar filled with sparks and light. Welders worked on enormous frames, scaffolding climbed into the dark. The air smelled of metal and ozone. "What are we calling them?" asked Lieutenant Myra Zhao, looking up at the growing silhouettes. Sarah smiled faintly. "They'll be our answer to the Versh fleet. Star Reach wasn't the end, it was the beginning." Zhao grinned, Star Reach class. No, Sarah said softly, her eyes shining. Guardian class. Orbit above Earth. The remnants of the Versh fleet drifted silently through space, dead ships floating graveyards. But among the wreckage, humans worked. Recovery teams and patched-together shuttles moved between shattered hulls, stripping technology, pulling survivors from wrecked pods, both human and alien. Captain Liam Ward, the Australian commander from the First Ground War, now led the orbital salvage corps. His voice crackled through comms. We've got live ones here. Repeat, Versh survivors. The comms officer responded, stunned. Orders, Captain. Ward hesitated. His hand hovered over the trigger that could end it. Then he remembered Cole's words, we fight to live, not to hate. Bring them in, he said finally. They bleed, that makes them people. Geneva Command Center. The news spread quickly. Humans were taking alien prisoners alive. Many were skeptical, some wanted vengeance, others understanding. Cole gathered his officers in the strategy room, watching the feeds of detained Versh soldiers, disarmed, treated, even fed. They were terrified, expecting torture. Instead, they found care. Sarah entered quietly, overhearing the conversation. You're really doing it, she said, helping them. Cole didn't look up. We win by being better, not worse. The galaxy won't see it that way, she said. Then the galaxy can learn, he replied. He turned toward the screen showing a Versh prisoner staring at a human medic dressing his wounds. If they see compassion from a death world, maybe they'll start asking what made us this way. The Galactic Council. 50 light-years away, the Galactic Council was in chaos. The holographic chamber buzzed with overlapping voices. News of the Versh defeat had spread like wildfire, an entire empire humbled by a species barely out of its cradle. Ambassador Thelix sat quietly, her crystalline wings dimmed with exhaustion. Around her, leaders argued. They destroyed an entire fleet. No, they defended their world. They used nuclear weapons and railguns, barbaric. And yet they live. Thelix raised her voice at last. Enough. The chamber fell silent. You all warned the Versh not to touch Earth. They didn't listen. Now you see why we quarantined that world. Ambassador Corrin leaned forward, his reptilian features tight. Then what do we do now? Thelix's voice softened. Now we wait, because Earth has seen the stars and they will come. Colorado, Project Dawnfur. The Guardian-class fleet was taking shape. Each ship dwarfed Star Reach in scale. They were sleeker, stronger, smarter, built for deep space combat and exploration. Every nation contributed something unique. Power cores from France, hull alloys from India, targeting AI from Korea, propulsion designs from Brazil. Sarah walked the length of the main hangar, her boots echoing against the steel. The ship above her gleamed under construction lights. Lieutenant Zhao fell into step beside her. I still can't believe we're building a fleet from scratch in 2 months. We've had 2 centuries of practice, Sarah replied. We just never worked together before. Zhao nodded. Do you think they'll come back? Sarah stopped, looking up at the massive ship hull. Of course they will, but next time we won't just defend Earth. Her gaze hardened. Next time we'll meet them halfway. The Versh remnant. Far in the dark reaches of space, what remained of the Versh fleet limped toward home. Commander Kree's name was now a curse whispered among his kind. But a small handful of survivors, shamed and broken, transmitted his last log to the Empire. The message was simple. Do not come to Earth, do not provoke them. They are not a primitive race. They are evolution perfected through adversity. They do not fear death, they live with it. But the Versh Empire was too vast, too proud to listen. They prepared their second fleet. United Earth Shipyards, orbit. Humanity worked day and night. Cole stood aboard the command platform, overlooking construction of the first Guardian-class warship, Resolute Dawn. Below, workers in EVA suits drifted between scaffolds. The sound of welding torches echoed even through the vacuum via the comm feed. Sarah's voice came over the radio. Helios reactor installed. Power cores are sinking. We'll be ready for first flight in 48 hours. Cole smiled faintly. You just broke the record for fastest shipbuilding in galactic history. Desperation's a good motivator, Sarah said. So is survival. A broadcast to the people. That night, the entire world watched as General Cole stood before the rebuilt United Earth Assembly. Behind him, projected against the stars, floated the glowing image of the new Guardian-class fleet. His voice echoed across every screen, every radio, every outpost. 3 months ago, we faced extinction. We didn't win because we had the best technology. We won because we refused to give up. The Versh will return, but when they do, they'll find a different planet waiting. He paused, letting his words hang in the air. We are not victims of this galaxy. We are its future. We are explorers, defenders, creators. We will build, learn, and rise because that's what humanity does best. Thunderous applause erupted. Across continents, people shouted in pride. For the first time in millennia, Earth didn't just survive, it belonged among the stars. Galactic Council Observation Station. Ambassador Thelix stood before her console, watching the human broadcast through a secure channel. The human's words resonated through the empty chamber. Beside her, Ambassador Corrin's scales glimmered faintly. They've done it. They're uniting the entire planet. Yes, Thelix whispered, and once they finish uniting their world, they'll come for the stars. Corrin turned to her, voice low. Do you fear them? She shook her head. No, I pity those who will stand in their way. Project Dawnforge test flight. The first Guardian-class warship, Resolute Dawn, launched under roaring engines. Its sleek body shimmered with polished alloys and reinforced plating. Sarah watched from the control tower, heart pounding as the vessel climbed. She's holding steady, Zhao said, eyes wide. No system failures, no drift. Reactor output. Stable. FTL drive. Charging. Sarah smiled, whispering to herself. We're not just survivors anymore. We're a spacefaring species. The ship disappeared into the void in a flash of blue light. Humanity had taken its first true step among the stars. Hours later, alarms blared in the control tower. Sarah and Zhao rushed to the console. A transmission was coming through, encrypted, alien, and nearby. Cole's voice came through the intercom, grim. Where it coming from? Sarah's eyes widened as the signal decoded on her screen. A single message flashed across every monitor. This is Versh Command, 2nd Armada inbound, estimated arrival 45 days. Zhao looked at Sarah, voice shaking. What do we do? Sarah turned toward the window, watching Earth's new fleet shimmer against the stars. We finish building the Guardians, she said quietly, and then we take the fight to them. Space was silent, but Earth was not. The once blue world glowed with defiance. New orbital stations shimmered in the upper atmosphere, railguns the size of skyscrapers locked onto the incoming signatures of the 2nd Versh Armada. Hundreds of launch platforms dotted the surface, each ready to hurl the fury of a species that refused to die. And among them, humanity's new pride, the Guardian fleet, waited. 45 days later, edge of the solar system. The darkness rippled. 50 then 100 Versh warships emerged from hyperspace in flashes of burning light. Their formation was perfect, their arrogance intact. From his throne ship, Admiral Rekath, successor to the disgraced Commander Kree, surveyed the holographic map of the solar system. His armor gleamed obsidian black, engraved with imperial runes. So this is the Death World, he sneered, the place that broke Kree. His adjutant bowed low. He underestimated them, Admiral. He failed to understand their nature. Rekath's mandibles twitched. I do not fear savages. The humans used luck and chaos. We bring order and precision. He gestured to the fleet. Prepare bombardment. We'll end this infestation before it spreads. Geneva Command Center. The holographic projection of the incoming fleet cast eerie light across the faces of those who had survived the First War. General Ethan Cole stood at the center, arms behind his back, his face grim but steady. Dr. Sarah Chen and Lieutenant Myra Zhao flanked him, their eyes locked on the data streams. They're here, Sarah said softly. So soon, Zhao whispered, and twice the number of the last invasion. Cole didn't flinch. Good, twice the number means twice the wreckage for us to study. He turned to the global comm operator. Patch me through to every command unit on Earth, orbit, and Luna base. A tone chimed. Cole's voice echoed across every speaker, from warships to bunkers, from satellites to submarines. This is General Cole. The Versh have returned. They come with vengeance, not understanding. But this time, they're not facing the divided world they found before. This time, they face humanity. We will not hide. We will not beg. We will meet them in the void and remind them why this planet is feared across the stars. He paused, his gaze unwavering. We are the children of a death world, and we are coming for them. Orbit Guardian Fleet. The Guardian-class warships, sleek silver giants with human grit and alien power, aligned in perfect formation. The flagship UEV Resolute Dawn led the fleet. Sarah Chen was aboard, standing beside Captain Liam Ward in the command bay. FTL signatures confirmed, Ward said. Enemy fleet has entered the system. All Guardians report combat ready, Sarah said. Engage launch protocols. Let's show them how fast humans learn. The hulls of the ships glowed as plasma generators came online. Shields shimmered. Railguns locked. The vacuum filled with energy waiting to be unleashed. Outer system first contact. Rekath's fleet crossed Neptune's orbit, weapons primed. Contact in 1 minute, said a Versh officer. They're coming to us. Rekath leaned forward. Good, let's end this before they reach their filthy world. Moments later, space lit up. Thousands of projectiles streaked through the void, solid metal slugs accelerated by magnetic rails, guided by predictive AI. They tore into the Versh formation before shields could compensate. One destroyer vanished in an instant, vaporized by a tungsten rod traveling at 12 kilometers per second. Rekath's eyes widened. They're firing before visual range. Kinetic weapons, Admiral. Then close distance, burn them from the stars. The Versh fleet surged forward, firing plasma volleys that lit the black sky green. The Guardians answered with coordinated precision, weaving through explosions, their thrusters glowing sapphire blue. It was no longer a battle between conquerors and primitives. It was war between equals. Aboard the Resolute Dawn. The hull shuddered under impact. Alarms screamed. Shields at 60%, Zhao shouted. Sarah steadied herself against the console. Return fire, focus railguns 3 through 8, target that cruiser cluster. The ship roared as it fired. Blue plasma beams cut across the void, followed by the thunder of kinetic cannons. 3 Versh ships disintegrated, their debris scattering like shattered stars. Ward grinned, "That's for Sydney, you bastards." Sarah ignored the shaking walls, her voice calm over the intercom. Guardian 2 and 3 flank left, draw their attention. Guardian 5, fire Helios cannon on my mark. Charging, came the reply, ready in 10 seconds. Sarah's eyes narrowed, mark. The Helios cannon fired, a column of molten light piercing the darkness. It struck the Versh flagship's shield. The shield held, then cracked, then shattered. Direct hit, Zhao shouted. Sarah's hands trembled, again. Versh flagship, chaos. Admiral Rekath stumbled as his ship rocked. The bridge lights flickered, smoke pouring from ruptured conduits. Admiral, their main weapons are exceeding predicted power output. Rekath bared his fangs. Impossible, no species adapts this fast. They're using our technology, but enhanced. Their reactors are overclocked beyond safety limits. Rekath stared at the tactical map, half his fleet already gone. Then they're killing themselves to win. His officer whispered, horrified, or maybe, Admiral, they're built to survive it. Rekath slammed his claws onto the console. Reroute all power, prepare for ramming formation. If we die, we take their flagship with us. Geneva Command Center. Cole watched the feed of the battle unfold. The sky above Earth now filled with light brighter than dawn. Status on Guardian Fleet. Holding, said the technician. They've destroyed half the Versh force but are sustaining heavy losses. Cole nodded slowly. Then it's time for Phase 2. He opened a secure channel to Lunar Command. Activate Project Horizon. From the moon's dark side, enormous launch platforms powered up. Silos opened like giant eyes awakening. Massive electromagnetic pulses surged through the vacuum. Dozens of orbital defense satellites, repurposed mining stations, fired synchronized tungsten shells at relativistic speed. The second Versh wave didn't even have time to react. Entire squadrons vanished. Direct impacts confirmed, said the comms officer. We're punching holes in their line. Cole clenched his fist. Keep the pressure on, don't give them a chance to breathe. Aboard the Resolute Dawn. Sarah's voice cracked through static. We're losing power to the lower decks. Zhao slammed her fists against the console. We're out of coolant. Divert from life support, Sarah barked. That'll kill half the crew. Then they'll die fighting. The crew obeyed without hesitation. Humanity had learned that survival was born from sacrifice. As the power surged back into the weapon systems, Sarah whispered, "For Earth." The Helios cannon fired one last time, a blast so bright it blinded every viewport. When the light faded, the Versh flagship was gone. The turning tide. With their command destroyed, the Versh fleet fractured. Ships turned, collided, fled. Human forces advanced relentlessly. Railguns tore through stragglers, missiles chased escape pods. And then, as the last Versh cruiser tried to flee, its engines flickered and exploded. Silence fell. The stars went still. Aftermath orbit over Earth. Smoke and debris drifted where the Versh fleet had once been. The Guardian fleet was scarred and battered, half its ships lost but victorious. Sarah sat on the floor of the Resolute Dawn's bridge, covered in ash, blood on her hands. Zhao leaned beside her, grinning weakly. "Did we win?" Zhao asked. Sarah smiled faintly. "We didn't die, that counts." Ward's voice came through the comms. "Fleet Command, this is Guardian 1. Enemy destroyed. Repeat, enemy destroyed. The sky is ours." The Galactic Council. Ambassador Thelix stood before the assembled council, the tension in the chamber so thick it felt like gravity. "It's over," she announced. "The Versh Empire's second armada has been destroyed. Earth stands victorious." Whispers rippled through the delegates. Corrin turned to her, voice trembling. "They fought off 2 entire invasions in less than half a cycle. What are they now?" Thelix looked at the stars beyond the chamber. Something new, something the galaxy hasn't seen in millennia. She turned back toward the others. "They're not just survivors anymore, they're contenders." 3 months later, Galactic Council Station. For the first time, humans arrived not as the observed, but as guests. The great station's docking bay opened, revealing an Earth vessel marked with the sigil of the United Earth Fleet. Its hull shimmered with both human and Versh technology, symbols of war turned into peace. As the hatch opened, Ambassador Elena Rodriguez, Earth's first envoy to the stars, stepped out in a navy blue uniform. Her presence was commanding, her eyes sharp. Ambassador Thelix waited at the base of the ramp. Rodriguez extended her hand in greeting. "Ambassador Thelix, I believe we have much to discuss." Thelix took the hand, feeling the strength behind the human gesture. "On behalf of the Galactic Council, welcome, Ambassador Rodriguez." Rodriguez smiled. "On behalf of Earth, thank you, and don't worry, we come in peace." Thelix tilted her head, wings flickering. "Peace or preparation?" Rodriguez's smile didn't fade. "Both." Council chamber, humanity's introduction. The hall fell silent as Rodriguez addressed the galaxy's leaders. "We understand why you feared us," she began. "We understand why you quarantined our world. You saw violence, danger, unpredictability. But what you missed is that survival shaped us into something more. We don't seek conquest, we seek connection. We don't want to rule, we want to belong. But if you threaten us..." Her eyes darkened. "If you ever again send your fleets to our home, you will learn that we are still children of a death world." Silence, then slowly applause. Thelix smiled faintly, whispering to Corrin beside her, "They've come far." "Do you think they'll stay peaceful?" Corrin asked. Thelix looked toward the human delegation, scientists, soldiers, diplomats. "I think peace is just another battlefield, and they're already winning." Years later, a lone ship drifted through deep space, bearing Earth's insignia. A human voice recorded in its log spoke quietly over the hum of the engines. "We were born on a planet that tried to kill us every day. The storms, the cold, the heat, the hunger, they taught us persistence. The wars taught us unity. The void taught us purpose. We are humanity. We are the product of a death world, and we are coming not to conquer the galaxy." A pause, the stars gleamed ahead. But to remind it how to survive. The ship accelerated into the black, leaving behind the faint glow of a small, defiant world. Earth, the death world that fought back.